After the successful and very well received Find 5, Oppo is out with another one that thinks bigger and somewhat outside the box. Hey, it's Josh Vergara from Android Authority. What's going on, everybody? And this is our first look at the Oppo N1. Oppo was gracious enough to bring me out to their launch event in Beijing, and after a spirited presentation, I got my hands on the new 5.9-inch large N1. After their great Find 5, seeing another big release from Oppo was definitely an exciting prospect. What we're looking at here is a much larger phone that sits squarely in the phablet space, basically right alongside the Sony Xperia Z Ultra and somewhat beyond the Samsung Galaxy Note range. This is an aluminum-clad phone, but in the hand it has a soft touch. It basically feels like the Find 5 in terms of its contact with the skin, and aside from its larger size, it is actually still pretty easy to grip. Oppo has really made design one of its biggest priorities, and in the presentation, they made a big deal of the fact that all of the ports have been brought down to the bottom to ensure all the other sides remain very sleek. The button layout is all on the right side and brought halfway down in order to make it easier to access. The bright IPS screen does its job well, bringing a very bright 1080p experience to this large screen that should please all of those media junkies out there. When you come down the back, you get the all-white background with the Oppo logo, but when you look closely, there is a small square area that has some etching on it. This is the O-Touch area, which is one of the N1's innovations. With the phone as big as this, navigation might be quite difficult, especially in one hand, and Oppo wanted to make life easier by putting a touch-sensitive area on the back that you can use your index finger on to navigate. Plenty of functions are available, like swiping among home screens, tapping to take pictures, and more should come as the SDK is made available to app developers. For now, it's a thoughtful but admittedly rather limited feature, but it should grow as time goes on. But the two biggest stories regarding this device are the ones that you notice right away. Not only is this a much larger phone than many of us might be used to with that 5.9-inch screen, the camera way up top brings a modern take to an old gimmick: rotation. Yes, the speaker grille and the rear-facing camera have been put together into one movable unit, thus allowing you to have the rear-facing camera move forward to become your front-facing camera, with all angles in between possible for shooting as well. The camera has two flash diodes that work in congruence to get you either a softer or stronger light depending on your circumstances. So not only is the N1 doing away with subpar front-facing cameras by allowing you to use the rear camera, it is also opening up possibilities for you to capture pictures from many possible angles. Their advertisement showcasing this was nice, but it also served as an example of how creepy it might be to have this kind of freedom. But I guess it's up to you to decide on that one. Underneath the hood, Oppo opted to put in the Snapdragon 600 processor that clocks in at 1.7 GHz, backed by the Adreno 320. The user interface did move along very smoothly, and we saw no hiccups. So even if benchmarks put it below the faster Snapdragon 800 devices out there, it can still sit among them in actual usage. There is no expandable storage for the 16 or 32 GB available. And here are a few quick shots from the camera taken in the pretty dimly lit room I was in. With an aperture of f2, the camera is already equipped with low-light tools and thus did well under these circumstances. The rotation in the camera unit might make some users wary of its overall longevity, but Oppo claims that it will withstand a long time of movement. One of the bundled accessories with the N1 is a small module called the O-Click. This is a small but still attractive looking button that has a few different functions. It mainly is able to remotely snap a picture if you put the phone down for, say, a group shot, but also is a two-way phone locator device. And finally, in software, we were all waiting with bated breath to hear about the CyanogenMod partnership. Unfortunately, information was quite sparse, as they definitely announced the partnership but stopped short of giving further information. One of the main questions was if Oppo was going to continue with its own operating system. This was answered pretty emphatically with the unveiling of the Color OS. So this is how it's basically going to work. All Oppo units thus far will come with the Color OS installed, but the CM-ROM will be bundled along with instructions on how to install or flash it. A special edition of the N1 with CyanogenMod pre-installed is in the works, but we'll see a limited release. As far as Color OS goes, it is very similar to the OS that we saw in the Find 5, with a couple new features, mainly support for gestures that are put in via a new drop-down that you can access by dragging down from the top left corner. It is nice to see Oppo continuing with their own software endeavors, but the CyanogenMod announcement definitely propels them into more Western audiences, all of whom should be paying more attention to the fast-growing Oppo, if they haven't already. And so, there you have it. The Oppo N1 is quite the endeavor from a Chinese manufacturer that somewhat surprised but definitely pleased all of us with their Find 5. Once we get our hands on a unit for a full review, make sure you check it out, as we are definitely excited to put the N1 through its paces. Until then, stay tuned to Android Authority for all of the best coverage, because we're your source for all things Android.